Dr. Justin Trosclair, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and for making allowances for the time difference.
Not a problem. It's still better than before.
I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much for being on, for having me. I'm excited, actually.
You are a chiropractor extraordinaire. And, you know, it's funny. I run into people who still don't know a whole lot about chiropractic work, what it is, what it does, what it helps. So let's just start right there. Can you tell me a little
Okay.
bit about what chiropractic is and the benefits of it?
Yeah, so there's usually two types of chiropractors, and there's one that's going to, tell you not to get vaccinated and come in for months and months at a time and innate intelligence and all that. I'm not that guy. I am still going to tell you that an adjustment will help headaches and sciatica and numbness in your arms and legs and all of that. But I'm also going to recommend exercises or stretches or do some kind of muscle work to get those things to relax faster and get you better that way. So we're what I would call more evidence based. If you compared a physical therapist, which we kind of all know, and a chiropractor, and they've both been trained to adjust and both been trained how to do rehab, you shouldn't know who's who. Like if you were in the Olympics, you wouldn't know who is actually treating you unless they said exactly who they were. So that's kind of what my goal is: get you out of pain and get you back to your active lifestyle quickly and effectively.
And you do that through what kind of methods?
So it's typically, quote, by hands. That's kind of what chiropractic means in Greek, but it's an adjustment. So if you've ever cracked your knuckles or even cracked your own neck, you've experienced technically what we do, but we do it obviously in a more trained way, and we find the ones that are, we call it fixated. There's certain motion that should occur, and when that doesn't happen, the joint kind of swells up a little bit. It sends off all these pain receptors to the brain, and so once you get that moving again, it shuts off those receptors. It's not like there's a bone pinching a nerve or anything like that. A long time ago, that was a nice way to illustrate what was going on. But as science comes out, we realize like, yeah, that's not actually happening. It's just the joints aren't moving. They get swollen. The muscles get tight. Tight muscles aren't healthy muscles. And all of these things just create pain, inflammation. And so a lot of things that we do is trying to remove those things. And the adjustment, or like I said, like when you hear the knack noise or the crack noise. I'm in Germany, they always say knack. So I've gotten used to saying knack. So the crack, the snap, crackle, pop. But you don't have to hear it. You can also use instruments, which I used to specialize almost completely in for osteoporosis. And for people who are like, yeah, you can do everything except crack my neck. I don't want you twisting me. I don't want you twisting my low back. So we have these instruments that delivers that same force in a more direct pattern.
So when you say joints, you're talking just the spine, or are you talking about other joints in the body?
We can do shoulders and knees and hips and those types of things as well. It depends on how comfortable the chiropractor is at those. I always like to use instruments. That's just my preference when I do joints. But if you have like a knee repair, like you got to replace like the ACL replaced, you're not really going to come to a chiropractor for that. This is more of you. You're playing basketball. You kind of tweak your knee. It's swollen or it hurts a little bit. You can come to the chiropractor. We'll work on some of the muscles above and below. We might like deliver some an adjustment on the knee. Maybe the patella is not tracking quite right, and then those things start to go away. But a lot of that has to do with the rehab that we would teach, so that you don't have to have the surgery.
When it comes to treating the body,
hmm
chiropractic seems to be fairly versatile for a lot of different conditions. Uh, why is that?
It's it's nerves. It's neurology. It's I, that's the hardest part is you can have somebody well, the chiropractic was invented or not invented, but you know what I mean. The first patient was he got his hearing back. Well, what was going on there? We still don't really know. And you can't go around marketing, hey, we can help deafness and blindness and, hypertension will drop. You can't say all those things or help you get pregnant. No, you can't say none of that. Do we anecdotally see some people, these things kind of maybe see, they call it N equals one. You got that one patient in your clinic and one patient in that clinic, and we focus on that. And you're like, well, wait, what about the other 99 that didn't, get off of their diabetes medicines and from their lifestyle coaching that you had, or their hypertension medicine? So I'm not the chiropractor that's going to go around and say those types of things. I want to be honest with people. Like, you might find that these things get better. You might have better bowel movements because we got certain nerves that go to that area to not be irritated anymore. And so it was able to heal. And of course, just like acupuncture, we might give you some vitamins, we might give you some herbs, we might work, the full body over to try to support you inside and out. And then certain things can get better if you just take away the problem.
And that's kind of where it is, isn't it? When we're talking holistic medicine, and chiropractic definitely is one of those holistic modalities where we're trying to really influence the whole person.
Hmm.
Uh, there's so many facets to it. I mean, like you say, it's not just necessarily doing manipulations on the spine.
Hmm.
Doing more than that, correct?
Correct. You almost have to do a manipulation between the ears, you know. Men, women, they just, especially athletes. Well, I got a game next week. I'm not skipping the game. Okay, well, that's what's causing your problem, and that's what it is. So you have to work within the parameters. Or, well, I work on a computer all day long. Okay, you're not going to change your job, so we have to work and make it work. Make the treatments, make the rehab, make everything tailored to this person. And if they're really stressed out all day, okay, are you drinking 8 cups of coffee? Yeah, 2 Cokes, a couple Snicker bars. Okay, we have some things that we can work on. And I'm not saying you have to give that stuff up, but maybe, like one of my books I talk about, go to the fun size Snicker bar. Now, if you have 3 or 4 of those throughout the day, you didn't have 2 or 3. And that makes a big difference. I mean, when we're talking about, 500, 600 extra calories of just pure sugar.
Yes, indeed. How did you decide to become a chiropractor? Is this something that you just kind of fell into? Have you always known that you wanted to be a chiropractor, or was there a process that you went through?
When I was in high school, I started to think I was going to do dentistry, and then realized, like, I don't really want to deal with people's bad breath and, all that kind of stuff. I was like, that doesn't actually sound that attractive. The money sounded attractive, but the other part didn't. And so I was like, what about an eye doctor? I always liked mine. And so I shadowed a bunch of people. I hope people take away that from this episode. Shadow someone who does what you think you want to do at whatever age. Most people are more than willing to help you. Um, and I was like, I liked it and everything. And then when I started going to chiropractic for headaches and things in college and high school. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I went to a couple of them, and I was like, man, you can kind of start calculating in your head. They're seeing this many people and this kind of, I know what I'm paying. And then you start seeing, like, people getting better and yourself and what other stuff. And you're like, well, I think this is really cool. Financially, it's okay. I'm helping people without medicine, without surgery. And you're like, you have a lot of freedom in what you can do. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And so you start looking into it, and you're like, okay, all right. It's similar to all these other schools that you got to go to. I didn't realize all the nuances once you're a chiropractor and in the field and everything. But overall, like, that's kind of the story. I didn't get a miracle. I wasn't, didn't stop seizures or something like that, and said, okay, forever, this is my passion. But over the years, I've just been loving it. It's allowed me to travel. I mean, we didn't even mention this, but I was in China for 5 years, and I'm in Germany doing chiropractic. Most people just stay in one place. Like, I didn't realize I could do this worldwide.
And how did that all come about?
I sold my clinic in Colorado. I was in Broomfield, Denver, and then I was looking for something else to do. Like, you're a business owner. Sometimes you don't get to take vacations. Sometimes you're stressed out and you just want, like, an off year, but you don't want to spend all your money. So I started looking around, and China was actually one of those countries that has reciprocity. Oh, you've gone through all the stuff. You've done all the tests. Well, we don't actually have that. Just prove it and you can come. Obviously, Australia and New Zealand would be the better option, but I was like, I'm not going to retake boards after about 7 or 8 years in practice. So it was a great fit. I tried it for a year, and I was like, what, if it's terrible, I can just leave in the middle of the weekend. Just be like, here's a note, here's my keys. So sorry, it's not working out. Uh,
And you didn't speak any Chinese at that time, did you?
no Chinese, never been out of America really. Like on a cruise boat, but yeah, it was just, and the only person I could talk to was my translator. So after like a year, I was kind of done, and then I ended up meeting a Chinese girl actually in America where I was working. I was like, my boss called me back. I was like, hey, can you want to, come back? And so we went, and then every year we sort of reevaluated, do we still want to be here? Why are we here? Are we enjoying it? The money was good. The all that kind of stuff, the experience. That's one of the main reasons why I went. I was like, wow, I can work in a hospital. How many chiropractors can say they work in a hospital? Hand in hand with acupuncturists and TCMs and medical doctors, the whole shebang. So it was quite the experience. Sometimes they do things I'd be like, what? But most of the time, everything was kind of synergy. So it was good. It was a really good experience.
And then you've gone from China, now you're in Germany.
That was I interviewed a guy. I have a podcast, as you know, you were on it. And I interviewed him, and a couple of years have gone by, and I was like, hey, man, when you ever get to the point where you can hire somebody, I really like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is great. You're getting people really better fast. And I just never experienced, well, I mean, I got people better, but just the quickness that he got and the special technique, I was like, that'd be kind of great. And I can go travel Europe. How fancy would that be? I've already seen lots of Asia. Now I can see another part of the world and not just go for 2 weeks like most people. And not Corona. So yeah, I didn't get to I've been to Germany. So, but it's good that work is nice, that the owner is great, and I have learned a lot. So it's been fun to broaden your scope in that field as well. Like I've actually never worked underneath somebody. Even in China, I was sort of like the guy. Nobody told me what to do other than play nice,
You have a lot going on. You've got your chiropractic practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just mentioned your podcast, which, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I had the pleasure of being on, and I'm glad I'm able to return the favor to have you on this show. And tell us a little bit about that podcast.
Yeah, so I was in China and didn't have a lot of people to talk to. And I just was listening to my own, not other people's podcasts. And I was like, man, there's more you can do. You can go deeper. So I was like, you know what? I can interview other doctors outside of my profession. That way you can get the full spectrum of like dentists and eye doctors and acupuncture, really see where they're coming from. That's a great learning experience, right? And then I also noticed that in a lot of podcasts, people start talking about like divorce and, they have $1 million and 3 clinics and divorce. I was like, well, that's no good. So I always make a point to ask those types of questions. How do you keep the love alive? How do you take vacation and unplug and all those types of things? How do you do marketing? All things that we kind of have to do as not medical doctors, So that was the reason why I started it, just to kind of reach out, and maybe that could turn into something later on, like speaking. And if I was like, if nothing else, you can't take away the skills that I've learned in graphic design and editing audio and really this communication. Like I was single for a while, so it was kind of fun to do those, like, first dates, 20 questions. I'm not sure everybody enjoys that, but I thought it was always interesting to like learn about what people did. And at the clinic, oh, so you're a what? Oh, interesting. I've never heard of this before. Please go on, tell me more. And I always found that fun. And so this was another way to explore that part of my personality and my drive to like ask questions and learn more about people. So,
And what's the name of the podcast, and how can people find it?
A Doctor's Perspective. And you can just go to adoctorsperspective.net, and we're everywhere from Spotify to Android. So anywhere you want to go, to Apple, whatever there's.
Fantastic. If you have an interest in A Doctor's Perspective, definitely check that out, ladies. Also, Justin, you have authored multiple books.
It's true.
How in the I'm sitting here thinking, how much time have I got to write? How much time have you got to write? And I mean, when you've got a busy practice, I am just flabbergasted at how you've authored this many books. So one of them I'm terribly curious about, and well, there's a couple. One, you wrote a book on needle-less acupuncture. Not needless, needle-less.
Which has been typoed before. Needless. I'm like, come on, guys.
What
Well,
inspired you to write that book?
I see acupuncture every day, and I would see what they're doing, and I was comparing it to like some of the books and some of the Western stuff that, American style. And you can see some similarities, you can see some differences. And I was like, I can combine a bunch of this stuff, like some real world experience plus some references, and create some protocols that people can try, because not everybody can either afford, sometimes it gets expensive. Sometimes you just don't have anybody nearby if you're in small town America. And even if you're in a big city, commuting can be crazy. I was like, let me put this together. These things work. I guess the hardest part is trying to make sure that you find the spot, but you trigger it correctly. So that's the hardest part, is trying to, I give you options that you can use, but obviously a needle is probably going to be the best, and people are scared of needles sometimes, even though, and you can tell whenever they're nervous, they start sweating.
I see that in clinic on occasion.
Yeah. So you got to have other tool. I think you probably have other tools in your belt as well when
That I
those,
do.
so, yeah, so it's 40 things. I think some of them, you know, it's kind of like the whole body, like really how much, menstrual cramping are you going to be able to take care of? Hopefully a little bit, but it's probably not going to take care of all of it. Neck pain, back pain, depends on what's your problem. You know how it is. If you got a 4 centimeter, millimeter, not centimeter, millimeter bulge in your back, ah, you know, it's going to take probably a little bit more real rounded approach to take care of that, not just doing something at your house.
Yes, indeed. It's when it
Our
comes to
clinics weren't that busy though in China. Sometimes they were busy, sometimes they weren't. So I was just make sure I would use my time, like instead of just checking Facebook all day, which there's times when you do. Um, I would just get bored, and I'm like, I need to be productive, and so I would try to spend time. I didn't have a kid yet or anything.
that
I
makes a
had
difference.
3 hour lunches. I didn't have any kids. I had a 3 hour lunch. I was done by 5:30, I think. So there was just lots of time available, and I didn't have a huge social life. Not being able to speak much Chinese. So I just spent my time just kind of putting my thoughts down. And um, do you write a blog?
Not the way I would like to.
Okay. But
I-
your guests, they're all business owners. So most people have a website. They're supposed to blog. If you're consistent writing emails, writing blogs, you can turn that into a book. You got to tweak it a little bit, throw it to your editor. Maybe you make it blend better. Maybe you don't. Like my first book is a health book. Um,
and that's
and it's mostly blog.
today's choice,
And
tomorrow's health.
correct. Correct. And it's got like financial, because I really like finances. I don't know if your guests like that or not, but I enjoy like balancing a budget and tracking my expenses, and talking to people like, oh, so you eat Starbucks 4 days a week, and you drink a lot of alcohol and you smoke. Oh, but you are complaining about money issues. Okay, okay. I'm judging you. Yes, I am. But we can take you from where you are and take you somewhere else. So we cover all of that stuff. That's stressful. Money is stressful. Like, why not put that a little bit in that book? Anyway, so I enjoyed that one. That was a passion project. And I guess I'm saying it because if they are having a blog and they're like, man, what can I do? We're all talking about like, what's that free PDF giveaway? Well, track your blogs, view what's the best, most viewed. You can turn that into a PDF, get some email addresses, and then target those people later for, whatever kind of, business that you have, whether it's, anything really.
Uh-huh. Well, what are some of the key ideas in today's choice, tomorrow's health?
It's little changes. Like, what size plate do you use? A lot of people worry about weight loss, right? Weight loss, those types of things. I've got a whole calculator that you can pick exactly what you need to eat, like macros, calorie wise. But the research shows, like, if you have a big plate, you're going to fill it up. Use a smaller plate, you don't eat as much, right? Don't eat in front of the TV. Like I said before, like snack size candy bars and things like that. There's just like little mild things, like little changes that turn into big changes over like a year. So if you're looking for a 2 week fix, this is not going to be their book. You can just, I guess, dehydrate it in a sauna. But if you're looking for like long-term changes, like, because I would go up, man, but when I first moved to China, I was like I turned into 180. I didn't realize I was big. Your face gets bigger, you don't realize it, and then you see your picture and you're like, oh yeah. And so I dropped all the way back down to like 154. And then every time I'd go back home to America, I would gain like 5 to 10 pounds because I was just like, rah! Everything from boudin to donuts. I didn't care. I was just like, let's eat. And so every time I go back, I'm like, all right, I need to get back into this and focus up. And so it was kind of like one of those up and downs. Germany and this coronavirus I've got we call it the brat belly, aka the bread belly, because they have lots of bread here. My restraint went away. So I'm back at that time where I'm like, okay, you've hit your upper limit. You need to focus again and drop those 5 pounds again. So
Self-discipline in holistic medicine is really one of the major keys to kind of staying healthy, isn't it?
yeah, and sugar. Oh man, you write about it and you talk about it, and then you don't do it. You find yourself eating more bread, eating more sugar. I'm telling you, I feel like all this stuff. If we just stopped eating so much sugar, we would just. And I mean, I say sugar, I mean rice, I mean potatoes, I mean, I'm talking about like all those things. The inflammation in your body would just drop. The arteries would relax. Your diabetes would go away. Well, you know what I mean. And it just, you'd feel so much better. That fog that you have. But man, that's the hardest thing to give away. So I'm a realist. For a long time in Colorado, I was like, once a week I'd have a splurge day, and we'd have like a potluck with like 5 or 6 other families. We'd have a good time, and I didn't care that day. I'd have 2 pies and a big old meal, and I didn't care. And it was like, that was my one day, maybe 2 days where I would cheat and just kind of go a little bit crazier, and it stopped you from going crazy, like getting off the wagon and just staying off of it for like 6 weeks, because that's when you really fall off. You know what I mean? You fall off,
Yep.
and then it's no good.
Yeah, that's definitely something I tell my patients is, there'll be like I've got a chart that has different food instructions for them depending upon their presentation. And it was a pre-printed chart. And so it'll say reduce or restrict or minimize. I always tell my patients just minimize. Start by reducing those things.
Yeah.
So if you like chocolate, great. Have chocolate, just small bit.
Mhm.
And if you can keep that self-discipline there to where you can have a small bit, great. If it's okay, if I have a small bit and then I don't have any self-restraint and I'm gonna pig out because I know I have it,
Mhm.
then okay, that's one of those things where yeah, you might want to go ahead and just go ahead and get that all out of the house. But for the most part, it's all about having that moderation, because otherwise just taking everything out of your diet sucks. I mean, I
Yeah.
ended up going gluten free a couple of years ago, and it was tough at first, but the more I started feeling when I had gluten, when I had beer, when I had bread, when I'd had pizza, I started noticing, oh yeah, I don't feel near as good as when I do when I don't have those things.
It's
And
pretty
so
interesting,
then
isn't it?
it became, okay, well, I'll have a little bit.
Mhm.
And it really makes a big difference.
Yeah. It's satiety. Satiety, whatever it's called, however you pronounce that word. What do we want? We want, I don't know how your chocolate bars are anymore. I don't really eat Hershey's. When you break it, there's usually like 3 pieces. Maybe just two are those three, and then you have the rest of the bar. That's all you need. But if you sit with the bar, you're just gonna keep eating it. So I put it in my closet, eat a couple pieces, I'm good to go. Maybe I go back later that day. But that one candy bar could last you longer, and you don't feel like you're stopping yourself. It's just when you have the whole thing at one time, or the big bowl of ice cream, I'm like, maybe put it in one of those, not a shot glass, but just a smaller, maybe a cocktail cup instead of a big bowl. That way, maybe you feel fancy too, you know. My martini, Rocket Road.
You've also authored some coloring books for kids.
This is so fun. And they do not sell very well because Amazon is a crowded market. So if you want to go to it, please check the show notes. It's a 6-book series. So I have it's 5 books, and then the sixth one is like all of them together. And so I priced it accordingly so that you would just buy the big one. But I was like, if I'm going to make them anyway, I might as well separate them out and like blah, blah, blah. All kinds of animals, insects, water, with 3 languages: English, Spanish, and Chinese, because I married a Chinese girl. So my kid is bilingual. And so anyway, so there's those 3 languages. you're going to have a whale and you're going to have it in 3 different languages. You're going to have a fox, 3 different languages. And it's flashcards. It's a coloring book. We're always trying to do stuff with your kid. You can tell a story with each one. So it's really fun. It's simple. Um, yeah, it was just a passion project for my kid, to be honest. I was like, why don't they give cool animals? Where's the antelope? I'm tired of a giraffe and an elephant and a tiger. There's more animals out there, by golly. Where's the kangaroos? So that's why they have some weird animals in there, because I was like, let's broaden her scope a little bit more.
Thank you for putting a fox in there.
You know it.
And
Those
speaking of
rodents.
foxes,
Yes, tell me.
This is the Get Foxy show. So, Dr. Justin, I have to know, what is your definition of foxy? What does foxy and being foxy mean to Dr. Justin Trosclair?
I'll do this with a preference. One, I like knowing what I'm good at. And when I'm good at something, I want to do it more. And I think, based on your target audience, we always have like an imposter syndrome, and we have to get over that and everything. And we're overworked. So it's like, you're enough. We know you're underappreciated, but give yourself credit. Your kids love you. And potentially, if you're doing everything that you are actually having to do to have a family together, other people notice that. And they're like, my goodness, look at this lady. How does she do it all? I can't keep my house in order. And then when you get to know her, you're like, oh, she doesn't. She doesn't have it all together. It's just that she's able to get it done somehow. And so my thought is, when you know what you're good at, do it. And it doesn't have to be money per se, but like if you're good at drawing, maybe spend some time, find time for yourself to do the drawing, because it's going to center you. It's going to give you the energy that you need in life. It's going to help you focus. It's something to look forward to potentially once a week or a couple times a week or whatever. Um, that's a big thing. I was divorced myself, and I did a class. It was like 30 hours, and I was able to actually like volunteer and be one of the little helpers inside there. And so I felt like I got more out of the second as being a helper, of course, than when you're trying to process your own stuff, because you realize you're not done processing it, because you get this one exercise and you're like, all right, I thought I was over that part and I'm not. Still hurts. But you see the women and men and what they're going through, and it really stuck with me. Like if I had enough time, or like, I think it'd be fun to proctor those again, because it was good for me, and it was good for other people to just process everything. And that's when you start to like discover who you are. You're not married to this person anymore. You don't have to fulfill these roles that you resented having to fulfill anyway. That's gone. Maybe you changed, you got fired, especially now, Corona. Maybe you got fired and now you have to reinvent yourself and find a new way to make money, and you're on that path. Man, imagine if you're like, yeah, I am good at designing something for people. Okay. Now you can tap in, you can design stuff, get paid for it. Maybe you don't charge as much as you're supposed to at first. And you get your portfolio, you add it, and you start taking classes, and boom, all of a sudden you're super foxy, because now you're what, Kamala Harris? My goodness, you know? So like her, don't like her, whatever, I don't care. But vice president, dang, you jumped up in life, man. You went from California to what, judge or something, to that? Hey, I mean, that's next level, man. Find your passion.
Who would you consider to be foxy in your world at the moment?
Ooh, hands down, JJ the wife. Kyaw. Man. I'm married, and just to me, it's just an amazing woman. Like, selfishly, she supports what I do. Oh, let's stay in China. Oh, let's move to Germany. Sure, podcast, all you want. That takes time. Got to edit those things and make them sound good. Sure. Oh, you want to make those Chinese, the coloring book? Go for it. Yeah, that's great. So anything, she's just very supportive. And then, of course, it switches. She likes to hike. She wasn't able to hike after she had our child for a while. We got to Germany. She's like, hey, you think you can handle her by yourself? You don't have a lot of experience doing that. I was like, I can do it. And so she went hiking again. Absolutely took her out of like a mild depression that she was getting. Just amazing. You know what I mean? Like, she does so much for the kids. She has her own side hustle that she does really well at. And, she had to take a hit coming to Germany compared to being in China, where she could always meet new people. So she still, still works that, stays, works with the kid. She cooks all this crazy bread. We went through 50 pounds of flour this year. You understand how much 50 pounds of flour is? That's how much baking she was doing. Like, she would take like sweet potatoes, mash it in with the flour, and then turn it into like a hedgehog. What? What? Who does that? So I mean, she just embraced this like housewife slash side hustle slash whatever. Like, she just, to me, it's just motivational to see someone do that, and she's okay with it. About 80-90% of the time. And so, it's my job to support her and encourage her when she's at enough and reached her limit. And yeah, so I just think she's great. I'm just happy to be with her.
You are a blessed man, Justin. You're a blessed
Yeah.
man. Well, how can people find out more about you, your work, and where they can find your books and your podcast?
If you type in Justin Trosclair on Amazon, all that stuff will pop up. Easiest thing is adoctorsperspective.net. Just go into the menu. You'll see all the social media, obviously podcast episodes, books. I mean, everything you would need to know or would like to know, it's going to be on there. So spend some time if you got a few minutes.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes as well. Justin, our time's up. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you doing good things in this world, man. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it, man. It's really fun.